Good afternoon, Simi Church.
Good afternoon.
Okay, our reading is going to be Romans 3 today. Okay, the first question Paul comes up with is verse 1. What then is the advantage of the Jew, or what is the profit of circumcision? Okay, does being born a physical Jew or a spiritual convert bring any advantage or superiority over non-Jews? I think that's pretty much the question. Verse 2, much in every way, Paul says, primarily in that we were entrusted with the oracles of God. Okay, first, we can look at the statement that Jesus made to the woman at the well in Samaria. John 4:22, if you would like to turn there, it just says, you worship what you do not know. We know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jew. Jesus told her that the Jews were the ones who possessed the revelations from God which they needed to help build a relationship with God. Second is the prophecies that Jacob made to one of his sons, and the son's name was Judah. Genesis 49:10, I'll just read it. The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh comes, and to him shall be the obedience of the people. So we'll listen to Christ. Now, let us read verse 3 and 4 together. For what if some did not believe? Should their unbelief nullify the faithfulness of God? And of course, here's the answer, may it never be. Rather, let God be true, but every man a liar, exactly as it is written, that you might be justified in your words, and might overcome when you are being judged by men. Okay, this is taken from David's acknowledgement of his sins in Psalms 51:4. And it adds in the first part, it says, against you only have I sinned and done this evil in your sight, and then it goes into that you may be found just when you speak and blameless when you judge. Okay, 5 and 6 go together. But if our unrighteousness brings to reality God's righteousness, what shall we say? Is God unfaithful to inflict his wrath? I'm speaking according to man's view, Paul's saying. May it never be, otherwise how shall God judge the world? Okay, God needs to judge in the matters of men. It's so needed. Here's an example, Ecclesiastes 8:11. I'll just read it quickly. Because the sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily, therefore the hearts of the sons of men is fully set on them to do evil. Oh, we need to understand what is to be shown man. Or we go right to evil and we just stay there, it seems. Okay. God is establishing a conduct for man, a knowing what is right and wrong, that there would be no bias for judgment, or that there would be no basis. This would be the basis for judgment. Okay, as we keep reading verses 7 and 8, we see that the Jews had been accusing Apostle Paul of teaching disobedience to the law. Verse 7, for if by my falsehood the truth of God has shown itself to be supremely great, to his glory, why am I still being judged as a sinner? But not according as we are being blasphemously charged, and according as some are affirming that we say, let us practice evil things in order that good things may come. Their condemnation is deserved. Okay, we find when this took place, it took place, of course, before this scripture was inspired, these scriptures in Romans 3, but it was in Acts 18, verse 12 and 13, and when Gallio was proconsul of Achaia, the Jews with one accord rose up against Paul and brought him to the judgment seat. Verse 13 in Acts 18, saying, this fellow persuades men to worship God contrary to the law. So Paul is always having to fight these type of issues. Okay, this helps us understand more what Paul is saying in these verses. Verse 9, what then? Are we of ourselves better? Not at all. For we have already charged both Jews and Gentiles all with being under sin. Okay, the Bible gives its own answer to verse 10. It's in verse 10. Exactly as it written, for there is not a righteous one, not even one. There is not one who understands. There is not one who seeks after God. They have all gone out of the way. Together they have all become depraved. There is not even one who is practicing kindness. No, is not so much as one. Okay, the Jews being entrusted with the oracles, is it of no benefit if it is not being? It is of no benefit. You know, you can be entrusted with something. If you don't use it, you have to use it. And these oracles were to transform one's life. Okay, and they just had a track record of letting down over and over again. In Psalms 111, verse 10, it says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. A good understanding have all those who do his commandments. His praise endures forever. Okay, this is how it works. The requirement for understanding is obedience to what is being learned, or you will lose it. That's what we've been teaching here at the Simi Church. We have to be doers, and then more understanding will come. They've lost their understanding. That's even why Paul has to defend himself in Romans 3 here. Their throats are like an open grave. With their tongues they have used deceit. The venom of asp is under their lips. Verse 14, whose mouths are full of cursing and bitterness. James 3:8 supports this. But no man can tame the tongue. It is an unruly evil full of deadly poisons. The point is that everyone has sinned by the words they have uttered. Okay, Romans 15. Their feet are swift to shed blood. Proverbs 6:18 goes with this. A heart that devises wicked plans, feet that are swift in running to evil. Yes, their feet are swift to shed blood. Okay, verse 16. Destruction and misery are in their ways, and the way of peace they have not known. And David comes to the plate for this one. Psalms 119, verse 165, it says, great peace have those who love your law, and nothing causes them to stumble. What has been the problem with the Jewish religious community in the past? They have let down. They have let down, and they let down their congregations. Okay, Romans 18. Romans 3:18. There is no fear of God before their eyes. There are a couple of proverbs that fit this very well. Proverbs 1:7. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. And then Proverbs 9:10 goes right along with it. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. Okay. Verse 19. Now then, we know that whatever the law says, it speaks to those who are under the law, so that every mouth may be stopped, and all the world may become guilty before God. Therefore, by works of the law, there should no flesh be justified before him, for through the law is the knowledge of sin. Okay, this refers to the use of physical effort. None are justified before God, for to have God's righteousness, this requires God's involvement. It is not something achievable by human effort alone. All that the law can do is to make men conscious of sin. The Greek word amartia, which means to miss the mark, God has revealed the proper standard of conduct through the law. Those who fail to attain that standard miss the mark. The law simply defines what sin is. So, that those who come under the law, know what conduct is or is not allowable. So that's what the law is for. Verse 21. But now the righteousness of God that is separate from law has been revealed, being witnessed by the law and the prophets. Even the righteousness of God that is through the faith of Jesus Christ towards all and upon all those who believe, for there is no difference. For all have sinned and come short of the glory of God, but are being justified freely by his grace through the redemption that is in Jesus Christ. Okay, redemption pictures deliverance from bondage. Okay, after a ransom is paid. And there's an example, Leviticus 25:48. It states, after he is sold, he may be redeemed again. One of his brethren may redeem him. And now this is referring to bondage of sin, that we are being redeemed by Christ who paid the price for us. Okay, let's continue on verse 25. Whom God has openly manifested to be a propitiation through faith in his blood in order to demonstrate his righteousness in respect to the remission of sin that are past. Through the forbearance of God, yes, to publicly declare his righteousness in the present time, that he might be just and the one who justifies the one who is of the faith of Jesus. 27. Therefore, where's boasting? It is excluded. Through what law? The law of works. By no means. Rather, it is through the law of faith. That's how it's established. Consequently, we reckon that a man is justified by faith separate from the works of the law. Is he the God of the Jews only? Is he not also the God of the Gentiles? Yes, he is also God of the Gentiles. Verse 30. Since it is indeed one God who will justify the circumcision by faith and the uncircumcision through faith, are we then abolishing law through faith? May it never be. Rather, we are establishing law. Okay, there are two types of righteousness. The righteousness of faith that has been discussed here, and then the righteousness of the law. Now, when it comes to the righteousness of the law, there is a problem here. In Romans 8:4, it says that the righteous requirements of the law might be fulfilled in us who do not walk accordingly to the flesh, but accordingly to the Spirit. So, in other words, we have to walk accordingly to the Spirit. In verse 7, because the carnal mind is enmity against God, for it is not subject to the law of God, nor indeed can be. This is why we need Christ's Spirit in us. Then we can keep the law righteously.